biggest investors. With us now, the chairwoman of KeepAmericaSafe.com, Liz Cheney. Liz, what do you make of this lecture from the Chinese?
Well, I think, on this issue, they have a legitimate concern. I think that many Americans have the same concern, which is that at a time when our economy is clearly struggling, for the president to be putting in place massive new spending programs, including this massive health reform program he's proposed, is really irresponsible. We need our president to be adopting policies that will put the nation back on a path of growth. We need him to be cutting taxes. We need him to be cutting spending. To encourage the private sector, the engine of growth in the economy, to be able to create jobs and really to be able to put us back on the right path. And when instead we see the administration really, using the economic downturn as an excuse to put in place these new programs that are, creating a $1.4 trillion deficit, the Chinese are not the only ones concerned about that.
But I mean, one of the rationale he used today was that, well, if I don't get a handle on this and our skyrocketing healthcare costs via this private system that, let's say, Liz Cheney expounds about, she didn't say that, but the gist was, well, we're going to have big problems, and this is my way of addressing that. It seemed to, for the moment, satisfy his Chinese audience today. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that, frankly, there are a lot of things the president could be doing that would be providing useful and effective reforms to the healthcare system. He could be handling the issue of medical liability reform. He could also be allowing American citizens to purchase insurance across state lines, setting up a real system of competition using the private sector to generate that competition, instead of this phony system of competition, which will involve a takeover of 1/6 of our economy by the federal government. So
what are the
I'm not
odds
so
on that
sure that
happening?
the Chinese were satisfied with the answer, but I certainly know an awful lot of Americans are very worried about it and aren't satisfied with it.
Handicap it for me, Liz. What do you think it looks like getting through or not in this country?
I think they're going to have a very hard time in the Senate. They really were able to ram this through in the House. I suspect that you will see some people paying the price at the ballot box next November. And I think they're going to have a much tougher time in the Senate. But I frankly hope that the American people continue to make their voices heard and continue to express concern about what would be the largest takeover of a segment of our economy in history. And again, to be using the fact that we are at an economic downturn as an excuse to put in place policies that are going to make that worse and that are going to leave a $1.4 trillion deficit for our children and our grandchildren is irresponsible and I think, inexplicable, frankly.
When I've got you here, the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed trial coming to New York, what do you make of that?
Well, I think, again, it's very hard to understand what the reasoning possibly could be behind giving this terrorist who is responsible for the slaughter of thousands of Americans a platform inside a courthouse 6 blocks from where over 2,000 of those Americans were killed on September 11th, the platform to preach jihad and to recruit additional terrorists. We're a nation at war, and I think that the president's policies with respect to fighting terror are as misguided and dangerous as his policies with respect to our healthcare system and to our domestic economic challenges. It's very concerning. They seem to think that they can fight terror through a law enforcement approach, and we've seen very clearly in the past that that can't work.
Liz, I just want to clarify something you said earlier. Were you saying your dad should run for president in 2012?
Well, Neil, I have to tell you, he's my candidate, but I have yet to get him on board with the concept.
So he wasn't saying, go, Liz, go.
No,
you were speaking
I was
for yourself.
freelancing. I was freelancing, but,
okay.
But he remains my candidate.
Are you going to be a candidate for office?
Right now, I'm very focused on Keep America Safe, on this new 501c4 we've formed, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Liz, thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil. Great to be with you.